Hello, class. Today we're going to look at Chapter 5 on performers. And as you can see from this awful picture, this is someone acting out. And, performing is just kind of part of being human. People love to be silly. People love to act out. That's just part of who we are. As children, we grew up, playing little games and, cowboys and Indians and doctor and hospital and mommy and daddy. So it's part of our makeup. You probably know that uncle, the lampshade on the head, and people like to tell jokes. There's some people that love at a party, that love being the center of attention, and they're always, they're acting. And there's a lot of actors like that, but there's also a lot of actors who are the opposite, who are very kind of, internal, and they like to act because that way they get out of themselves. So it can go both ways. Anyway, here's a couple of little clips of people, one of who Ariana Grande, just being crazy. This is a little clip of her acting out. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. This is her being filmed in her apartment, I guess.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Just being crazy. Ooh, Ariana, yes. Let me minimize that so I can get back to my being a spaz. Yeah, here's a fellow being a spaz. Let's see what he looks like. Oh, I need to move.
Yeah, I'm too confused. What am I talking about, boys?
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Good job, Maddie. Let me minimize him too. Well, let's try going out of this. Okay, so acting is it's like the athletes. Some athletes say, like baseball players say, well, we're grown-ups playing basically a kid's game. The thing is, at that highest level of acting, or the athletes, they're getting paid a lot of money. They're getting 20 million plus, to do basically things that we've done as kids. Obviously, it's very competitive to get there. There's very few people that make that, but it's kind of, we as a group of people really appreciate that technique, and then we pay them a lot of money for it. So there you go. Let's look at performing through history. This is a classical period, the classical acting, and you'll actually see a production of classical. I've got several in your module. I think module 5. You'll have a chance to view a production done classically, not necessarily all the way like it was done then, but from the plays of the period. So basically during that time, people wore masks. They didn't feel like they had to just be themselves. We didn't get to that until really this current modern age, which really started in the late 1800s. But all the movement was formal, formal, stylized, big voice, little bit, and they also had some, at the mask also could be like a megaphone. So the mask was developed like a megaphone, so they could actually, project their voice. Because they did, if you've seen any pictures of ancient Greece and the theaters there, they're huge. However, the theaters in ancient Greece were built into the side of hills. There was a lot of stone, and they said you could literally drop a pin and hear it. You would hear a pin drop because the acoustics were so good. So stylized movement, stylized gesture, having vocal power, poetic verse. The tragedies, the serious plays had to be done with poetry. And of course, it was all males. And actually, gals, sorry to say it, but males pretty much dominated the world of theater really until, you know, the mid 1600s, at least in the Western world. Here is a clip from Oedipus Rex. We saw the Lego version earlier, and this is an enactment. It's a 1957 production by a famous director, Tyrone Guthrie, and he tried in this production to imitate as close as he thought he could what it would have been like there. And that's why I've picked this piece, because it's the closest I think that I've seen that kind of represents what ancient acting in ancient Greece was like. So here's a clip of that. Let me get out of this and go to here.
Should name the man. No one can make the gods speak against their will. Then I will say what seems the next best thing. If there is a third course, show it. I know that our Lord Tiresias is the seer most like to our Lord Apollo, and through him we may unravel all. So I have been advised by Creon, and twice already have I sent to bring him hither. If we
Notice how everyone talks like this. If I've sent to him hither, they're singing their lines. You sing your lines, so it's almost like musical. You know, I think that I need to go out to the grocery store. You know, so it's part of it is this declamatory presentational style.
We lack his help. We have nothing but vague and ancient rumors. What rumors are they? I would examine every story. Certain wayfarers were said to have killed the king. I know, but who was that?
Okay, well, you also notice while we're cycling up, you notice that the mask, actually what happens is that the audience, after maybe about 5 minutes, they take the mask for granted. Again, that suspension of disbelief and entering that world. They really start to humanize the mask. And you don't, and after about 5 minutes of watching, you don't even notice that they're masked, because you've kind of in your mind you've assimilated them as human beings and people. Also, you can notice here they're kind of cheating. He's got a half mask, you know, because his mouth is still moving here, but everything else is covered. And I'm not sure if that is period, but that was maybe a design choice. So you get an idea. That's stylized oldie time acting. Then we go on to the Renaissance period. There are really three great periods in our Western civilization. There's the classical Greek and Greco-Roman period. There's the Renaissance period, and then there's the modern period. And then there's the Middle Ages in between, and then there's you know, transition from the Renaissance to modern. Really, which took place really between like the 16th, 17th, and 1800s. There was a transition until we really get to the modern world. Three great periods. So let's look at classical or Renaissance, classical Renaissance. And again, a lot of remnants, men mostly here. Women didn't come on the stage until about 1660 after the Protestant Reformation, Cromwell and overthrowing Cromwell, and then King James, I think, yeah, came in. So men were on stage until then, and then women started to show up. The masks mostly disappear in Renaissance times. They still showed up in the Commedia dell'arte, which we'll look at when we look at Italy. The movement was still stylized and presentational, and the audiences, you know, were very active. Some sat on stage. People in the audience would, like, you know, throw things and vocalize during a production. So it was very interactive. It wasn't the quiet, staid people that are supposed to be, you know, don't text and, you know, be quiet and you know, watch a show. It was more like had the flavor of a rock concert or a comedy show like today, you know, an improv show or something like where there's encouraging people to share more. Still stylized, declamatory. And again, the tragedies were done in a type of verse. We look at the iambic pentameter, oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention. Or if music be the food of love, play on. This kind of poetic, melodic, and again, singing it, singing it. Even nowadays, when I coach my actors, I tell them to try to get a flow. If music be the food of love, play on. Not if music be the food of love, play on. You could do it that way, but again, trying to get more of a flow. So here's a clip from a 1930s version of Midsummer Night's Dream that again kind of presents, I think, in one of the best examples of maybe that kind of style nowadays. Here's a clip of that.
I pray thee, give it me. I know a bank where the wild thyme grows, where oxlips and the nodding violet blows, quite over canopied with luscious woodbine, with sweet musk roses and with eglantine. There sleeps Titania some time of the night, lulled in these flowers with dances and delight. And with the juice of this I'll streak her eyes, and make her full of hateful fantasies. The next thing then she waking looks upon, she shall pursue it with the soul of love. And before I take this charm off from her sight, I'll make her run to love this boy to me.
Okay. So, people don't talk like that nowadays. You wouldn't see a Shakespearean production where people talk like that, and then sleeps Titania, who's in the night. You just think they're really overacting. So, but that, I think, was closer to the style of that period. Then we move into the next great period, which is the modern period. Here you have modern acting. Basically, it was a sea change. Let's be realistic. So is everything realistic? Speech, movement. Now this may seem kind of like, duh, why don't they do that to begin with? But that's just part of the period. The modern period is more fragmented, and we're understanding more about, it all started with, like Freud and Jung and discovery of the mind and the mechanical inventions of the railroad and the cotton gin and then Thomas Edison and electric light bulb and all these things in this modern age that were happening. And basically, people just said, here's who we are. We're just real people. So the idea just to play it like that. There were a couple of, then Stanislavski in the early 1900s in Russia categorized and made a structural, framework for modern acting. He basically was an actor and a director, and he also looked at the great acting of his time and went and, talked to the great actors and said, what are you doing? What do you do in that? Well, they focus, they concentrate on what they're doing and on playing something. If they want to try to convince someone that they need to fall in love with them, then their focus is on what they're doing, not how they're feeling, but what they're doing. I want to make you fall in love with me, or I want to make you go, so the action, but also the focus on something. So even if you're looking at a prop, even if you're examining a prop, that's your focus. Your focus is to just focus on examining a prop. So that kind of focus, and then your overall objective. So I've got a couple of examples here of modern acting. Modern acting came to America in the 30s. Some famous actors from the group theater, which was Lee Strasberg and Sanford Meisner and Stella Adler. Stella Adler went to Russia and actually studied with Stanislavski, and actually I studied with Stella Adler too, so I'm kind of part of that chain. And then Marlon Brando in the 40s was really Lee Strasberg started the actor studio, and Brando went there to study, but his acting was very kind of more internalized and more brutal and more from the gut, this American passion, not the kind of flowery, it was like, wow, I'm just here. So here's a clip of A Streetcar Named Desire, where he like freaks out at this dining room scene, and you'll see the kind of just the raw power he's got. Let me play this clip first, and I'll come back to Daniel Oyelowo.
That is a funny little story to make us all laugh. I don't know what's the matter, we're all so solemn. Is it because I've been stood up on my ball? It's the first time in my entire experience with man, and I've had a good deal of all sorts, that I've actually been stood up by anyone. Oh, I don't know how to take it.
Oh, cycling.
Tell us some funny little stories, Dan. Something to help us all.
I didn't think you liked my stories, Blanche.
I like them when they're amusing, but not indecent.
I don't know any refined enough for your taste.
Well, let me tell one. Yes, you tell one, Blanche. You used to know a lot of good stories. Now, let me see. I have to run through my repertoire. Oh, yes. I love parrot stories. Do you all like parrot stories? Well, this one's about the old maid and the parrot. This old maid, she had a parrot that cursed the bluest tweet and knew more vulgar expressions than Mr. Kowalski. The only way to hush the parrot up was to put the cover of the... Must be upstairs. Well, the only way to hush the parrot up was to put... Go on, Blanche. No, I don't think Mr. Kowalski will be accused. Mr. Kowalski is too busy making a pig of himself to think of anything else. The face and your fingers are disgustingly greasy. Go wash up and then help me clear the table.
Now, that's how I'm going to clear the table. Don't you ever talk that way to me. Pig, Polak, disgusting, vulgar, greasy. Those kind of words have been on your tongue, and your sister's tongue is too much around here. What do you think you are, fair queens? Just remember what Huey Long said, that every man's a king, and I'm the king around here. And don't you forget it. My place is all cleared up now. You want me to clear yours?
Okay, you get the idea. So that kind of unleashed animal energy, and compare that to Vivian Lee, who plays the sister. So she's very kind of delicate and a little mannered, you know. So he's like just sort of like real. And let's go to Daniel Oyelowo, a more modern but wonderful actor. Here's a clip of his work and his process. Whoops, where's my volume?
Change his mind. It's a speech that I give as Seretse Khama to my people in Bechuana land, which is modern day Botswana. And I'm appealing to them that they would accept my white wife as their white queen.
If I had married a woman of my uncle's choosing, he would this day proudly be confirming me king, and the line of royal succession, centuries old, would remain unbroken.
In playing Seretse, I found through my research and watching footage of him, he's an incredibly dignified man, a very poised man, a very elegant man. And I felt in giving this speech, there should be a stillness to him. Stillness gives status. He would often have his hands behind his back, almost as a sign of respect and deference, but he still managed to sort of have this regal bearing. We shot it in Botswana, in front of a Botswana crowd. It's a real test for me as an actor who is not from Botswana to talk to them as a leader that they know. Thankfully, most people seemed to be engaged, but sometimes people weren't, and you probably zone in on someone who seems not so interested to help you in your bid to appeal to them.
We should not be fighting for segregation. We should be fighting for equality.
In a scene like this, any emotion I have, it's not technical. I'm not one of those people who can cry on Q.
I cannot serve you without her by my side.
It has to feel real.
Africa can never be free until all those who live in her, white and black, recognize that race must have no bearing on equality and justice. I am ready to serve you because I love my people. I love this land. But I love my wife.
Sometimes when you're giving a speech, the emotion can take over and some of the technical aspects can go by the wayside, and you don't want that to happen. But none of the technical work you've done as an actor means anything unless there is an emotional connection for you as the actor giving the speech, also to the people you're delivering the speech to in the scene.
Those who understand the key, raise your hand.
And then hopefully the audience will eventually see it in the movie.
Okay, wonderful work. Does wonderful work, and he's a modern actor, but again, using technique gives you a framework. There's a wonderful story of Laurence Olivier, who was a famous actor. Let me get out of this a second. There's a famous story of a Laurence Olivier, who's a great actor, an English actor in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and he really one of the premier actors of the day, really on the par of, like, Leo DiCaprio, or whoever you think is the greatest actor. And he was on stage doing this performance, and he came off, the stagehand said, "Wow, Sir Lawrence, that was brilliant, that was great." And he was like, he was all mad. And the guy goes, "Why are you mad?" He goes, "Why can't I do that every time?" And that's what technique is. Technique is a framework, because not every performance is going to be the same. It's all going to be slightly different. But your technique helps you get there every time and can give a consistently good performance. It's like a baseball player. How come they can't always hit a home run? It's just the same thing. It doesn't always happen. Okay, so who's the best? Now, this is your charge, because you're going to pick a performer for the discussion board. Who do you think is a great actor or an actress, someone who has command of their body, not just that they're athletic, but they're limber, they're physical, they can do lots of different things. Are they very good with their voice? Can you hear them? Can they do a lot of accents? Can they do funny voices? Are they just vocally agile? Like Vince Vaughn speaks very fast. He can talk very fast. Some people speak very fast to be heard, like that. That's another aspect of speaking. So there's lots of quality of control over your voice and being emotionally present. Both the clips I saw of the actors are emotionally present. So who is in control? Who do you really believe and really, feel like they're really coming from their heart? Because that's what an actor has to do. They have to take a piece of who they are, because every performer basically is portraying different shades of who they are. It all has to come from them. You can't, your character's not over here. It's not a suitcase it's not a suit that you put on. It's something that you become through your imagination and your work and your study. So anyway, pick someone who you love, and then share a great clip of them on the discussion board. And that's one of the things you'll have to do. Let's keep going on. The Stanislavski system I was talking about. Basically, this is just the standard of training in America and really worldwide nowadays, because it makes so much sense. It's all basically, how do you work to believe what you are, who you are. Someone once said, I've never been like a serial killer. I've never been a crazy killer, but playing one. So how would you get into that? Well, someone said to that person, said, "Well, would you ever kill a fly?" And they go, "Yeah." Or, "Have you ever killed a fly?" "Yeah." Boom. Yeah. Or a bug. Well, so that would be as if you were a crazed killer like that, then people to that person are like bugs. So they're like that. So you transfer it, you get in their mind. How would you play that? So you find that inner truth and you're playing your through line. Everyone has a super objective in their life, a goal. Right now, your goal hopefully is to get through college, get a job, have a family, be successful. So every character has a through line too. What do they want? Do they want to be free? Do they want to make money? Do they want to fall in love? They want to leave town. So in playing that out through their scene and let that inform their work, that's their through line. That's their super objective. And then there's also the reacting part, like you could see in this little thing here. So there's the Sanford Meisner neighborhood playhouse technique is basically based on reacting, having people work off each other and really, really listen to someone else. If you're really listening, then you can react. And then you're not thinking about your lines or what you have to do. You're really in the moment. So that's a whole other aspect. So there's lots of different things at play in the craft of acting. And it is a craft, but obviously talent, if you're talented, then that also really helps too. So let's see what else we've got. Modern acting training. Yes, colleges, pretty much every college and conservatory in the country, or there's conservatories too that train actors. They train you in voice, movement, all of that, because no matter what style, you still need to have all that control. So just like a great athlete, and the people in LA, they're getting paid to do that. Guess what they're doing all day? Well, they're going through training. They do maybe 2 training sessions a day. They watch their eating. They get groomed. They're working out. So they're continually trying to perfect their bodies, their voices, and they take acting classes too. Even professional actors still go to class just to keep the training going. Just again, back to the baseball player, you still have to work on bunting and sliding and and throwing. You still have to work on all those basic skills. Or the basketball players, the warm-ups. That's where they're doing warm-ups. So, and there's a lot of work, really. If you look at the screen for the credits of any movie or television show, you can see the thousands of people that are involved in a production. So it's not necessarily, okay, you want to be an actor? Well, you might end up being a director. You might end up being a line producer, a location scout. You might be working in the business, but the business itself is very big. LA, it's movie town. Pretty much everybody in LA in one way or another is connected to the movie business, the production facilities. Even back to the sports. If you go to a football game, there's the football players on the field, but then there's the whole, the back office and all the support staff and the trainers and everything like that. So it's a big business. So basically, if you're interested, there's lots of ways you can participate and be in the field of performing. Okay, with that note, we're going to leave you, and we'll go on to directors and producers in our next little screening. See you later.